I'm in a very special place. This is the highest point on the North American continent east of the Dakotas. It also happens to be the site of North Carolina's first state park, Mount Mitchell. When I was 10 years old, I camped here for the first time in the summer of 1956. At that time, Mount Mitchell State Park was only 40 years old, and there were 9 other state parks. Today, 60 years later, there are more than 40 Tar Heel State Parks, from the mountains to the Outer Banks. This year we celebrate an important milestone in the life of our state. For 100 years, our state parks have been saving the best of North Carolina.
This program is made possible by funding from the members of State Employees Credit Union as a tribute to the men and women in our North Carolina State Park system and to the countless North Carolinians whose courage, time, and generosity have helped build our parks. Thanks also to Fred and Alice Stanback for their support of North Carolina's natural treasures, to the Southern String Band, whose music celebrates our parks, and to UNC TV viewers like you.
Every citizen of North Carolina has a place at the beach, a home in the mountains, a house on the lake, and a getaway in the country in our North Carolina State Park system. Unless you've been to all of your properties, then you probably have some questions. What does a state park look like? Our parks are a crazy quilt of sand dunes, seashores, rocky crags, cypress mazes, beautiful rivers, longleaf savannas, mysterious Carolina bays, coffee-colored streams, Piedmont creeks, fields of wildflowers, and mountain waterfalls. Our parks are places of extreme beauty and discovery. They are places of excitement and solitude. What does a state park sound like? One of the first things you are likely to hear is,
"Welcome to Pettigrew State Park."
"Welcome to Jockey's Ridge State Park."
"Welcome to Pilot Mountain State Park."
"Welcome to Hammock's Beach State Park."
Welcome to Jordan Lake State Recreation Area.
Welcome to Mount Mitchell State Park.
After that, you will be surrounded by the sounds of nature. Children's laughter. Many languages.
Superbe. Ouais. Et puis dans les rochers, là, tu t'es bien débrouillé.
Spazieren gegangen, das ist heute nicht mehr so oft. Die Kinder sitzen heute viel zu viel drin im Haus und
今日はいい天気ね。もうちょっと早く来て太陽が当たってる時にこの
And the sounds of water. One frequently asked question is, how close am I to the nearest state park? With over 40 state parks from the Tennessee border to the Outer Banks, 95% of all North Carolinians are within a half an hour of a state park. Who lives in our parks? Full-time residents come in many shapes and colors. What can we humans do in state parks? Just look for yourself. In our state parks, you can fly and even get married. For the use of such magnificent lands, what is the price of admission to these parks for North Carolinians and our visitors? At a time when everything seems to cost more and prices seem to be rising, most North Carolina state parks charge no admission fees. This is in keeping with a primary mission of our state parks, environmental education. Reasonable user fees are charged only for special services, ferries, campsite rentals, or canoe and kayak rentals. Today, the cost to taxpayers through state appropriations is an incredible bargain, a little more than $3 per citizen per year. Why was North Carolina one of the first states in the nation to have state parks? And why has North Carolina set aside and preserved some of its most iconic lands? Our State Parks Act says it best. North Carolina's archaeologic, geologic, biological, scenic, and recreational resources are part of the heritage of the people of this state, which should be preserved and managed by the people for their use and for the use of their visitors and descendants. Finally, you may have a technical question. Who owns these lands? To say these lands are owned by the state and its citizens would not be completely accurate. A visit to any park will quickly reveal the identity of the true owners. To fully appreciate our state parks, it is important to know when and where our first parks were established, especially those between 1916 and the end of World War II. Today, North Carolina is a center of commerce with almost 10 million residents. But it wasn't like that in 1916, a year before the United States entered the First World War. With a largely rural population of 2.4 million people, North Carolina had few paved roads, almost no iron bridges over major rivers, and travel in any direction was an adventure.
It's almost unimaginable that in 1916, when Mount Mitchell was acquired for a park, that anybody thought to acquire it for a park. How do you get people to it? There's only a few thousand cars in the whole state, and the roads are abysmally bad. They're dirt for the most part, and yet someone had enough wit to acquire that land as a park. So I cannot, in honesty, say that I would have been bright enough to think of that, and that's a respectable thing they did.
It was an important moment in the life of the state when our General Assembly appropriated $20,000 to preserve one of the last remaining spruce fir forests near the peak of Mount Mitchell. Lumbering practices had all but decimated North Carolina's mountain forest. The park also honored Elisha Mitchell, for whom the mountain is named, the intrepid UNC professor who measured the peaks of the Black Mountain in the 1830s and 1840s. Mitchell is buried on top of his mountain. Fittingly, this state park also contains the second highest peak in eastern America, Mount Craig, named in honor of Governor Locke Craig, who championed the preservation of this iconic landscape. The next land to be set aside for use by the people was Fort Macon on the Atlantic Ocean across the inlet from Beaufort. The fort was originally constructed between 1826 and 1834. One of the engineers who helped design its fortifications was Robert E. Lee, while he was still a young officer of the United States Army. Following World War I, Fort Macon was declared war surplus in 1924, making it eligible to become our second state park. By the 1920s, the boll weevil had destroyed cotton for many farmers. Failure to rotate crops had exhausted the land, and forestry practices were not sustainable. The Great Depression of the 1930s made life difficult for North Carolina families working on farms and in factories. In those desperate times, the people of North Carolina stepped up to add more parks. 2 new Piedmont state parks were made possible by generous individuals and citizens groups: Hanging Rock in 1936 and Morrow Mountain in 1939. During the Depression, depleted farmlands and cut-over timberland were acquired or managed by the Resettlement Administration or the Farm Security Administration between 1936 and 1939. Several of those tracts became magnificent parks, including Jones Lake State Park, Singletary Lake State Park, and Pettigrew State Park at Lake Phelps. Immediately after the Second World War, in 1945, Cliffs of the new state park was added, and in 1945, Crabtree Creek Recreation Area, which had been created in 1934, became a state park and would later be renamed William B. Umstead State Park. During the 1930s, existing parks and the land that would become state parks were benefited by the work and construction projects of the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Works Progress Administration. Work from these programs, done almost 80 years ago, can be seen at today's Hanging Rock State Park, Umstead, Morrill Mountain, and other parks across the state. With these Depression-era programs came the Blue Ridge Parkway, begun in 1936. The parkway made Mount Mitchell State Park more accessible and greatly enhanced tourism in the North Carolina mountains. Setting aside land for future generations is never easy. It should be remembered that Mount Mitchell and other state parks established by 1945 were built during a time when a poor, rural North Carolina had just gone through 2 world wars and the Great Depression. There was much to celebrate, but also much to do.
Come again no more. 'Tis a song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days have you lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more. Oh, hard time.
The history of our state parks reveals that after the purchase of Mount Mitchell in 1916, no new state parks were created through state appropriations until around 1969. But parks were established during this time through the generosity and foresight of individuals and communities, and from federal military and Depression-era programs. In the last decades of the 20th century, state appropriations were made available for parkland acquisition. 2 new funding mechanisms, one federal, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and a North Carolina program, the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, provided new revenue sources to preserve our heritage and our future. Beginning in the 1970s, new organizations focused on land, such as the Nature Conservancy, were formed to protect and preserve natural resources across North Carolina and the nation. The Tar Heel State is also home to 25 regional land trusts, which have assisted in adding new acreage to our parks. Finally, it should never be forgotten that along with land and money from private and public sources, thousands of North Carolinians have volunteered their time and talents over the years to build trails, campsites, bridges, and to assist park visitors. What a legacy for the rest of us who now benefit from their generosity and their sweat.
So many of our state parks would not exist or would never have been established had it not been for those local volunteers that appreciated the natural heritage, the unique or the iconic natural resource that existed there, or the opportunity for quality outdoor recreational experiences. Getting volunteers in state parks, some may think is challenging. It's not.
To know the history of North Carolina state parks is to know much of the essential social and cultural history of our state and region. Parks also helped us to get through difficult times and helped us heal as a people. Within the borders of our parks, you'll find a history of Native Americans, the birth of a new nation, and the record of wars pitting neighbor against neighbor. State parks also give us what the writer Eudora Welty called a sense of place by preserving landscapes which are distinctly North Carolina. Preserving sense of place, natural and cultural, is not only important for writers, but for public officials and citizens of all ages.
Parks are like windows or doors into the past, the historical past, into the natural world. And we walk right into them. And I'm a fellow who grew up climbing Jockey's Ridge. Felt like I was on top of the world when I was on top of that state park. One of my students recently wrote an essay about how much it had meant to her and her family to go many times to Stone Mountain State Park out west and to Fort Macon in the east. And what she loved to do, she wrote, was touch the chinking in the old homestead there at Stone Mountain and put her hands on the walls at Fort Macon. So she's touching the past. And she stands for thousands and thousands of students and North Carolina citizens who've done the same thing.
In our state parks, you will see our first heavy industry, a Native American quarry, which began operations 10,000 years ago at Morrow Mountain State Park. You can walk segments of the Southeast First Interstate Highway at Eno River State Park. See ancient stone fish weirs at Mayo River State Park near Eden. Visit old mill sites that ground grain into flour and meal and tied communities together at Umstead State Park in the middle of the Research Triangle. As you look at the summit of Pilot Mountain from any direction, you will see why it was a beacon for Native Americans and thousands of Scotch-Irish and German settlers who came south through the Shenandoah Valley from Pennsylvania and Virginia, seeking a new life in North Carolina.
So Pilot Mountain is the great example of a natural feature that can be seen from many miles away that will lead you to some well-known junctions. And I'm sure that somebody coming out of Maryland or Pennsylvania or New Jersey heading down towards Carolina for some cheap land was told to take the wagon road. And when you break through the Blue Ridge, look south, and you'll see this large protrusion, this great big old rock. And head in towards it because that's where the Moravians are, and that's a safe place to be.
At our state parks, you can visit places like Crowder's Mountain, the 1,625-foot quartzite peak west of Charlotte, located just north of the Kings Mountain National Military Park in South Carolina, where the Patriot Militia defeated British Loyalists in one of the most decisive battles of the American Revolutionary War. You can see where we were tested as a young nation during the American Civil War at locations like Fort Macon State Park. Lands encompassing our Great Dismal Swamp State Park were visited by George Washington in May 1763. Washington suggested a north-south canal connecting the Chesapeake Bay and the Albemarle Sound. Opened in 1805, it is the oldest continually operating canal in the United States. When you visit Singletary Lake State Park, you will be on lands walked by the famous botanist William Bartram while living near Elizabethtown on the Cape Fear River from 1761 to 1764, where he likely saw his first Venus flytrap. Park visitors can stand on Grandfather Mountain and have the same view as the great French naturalist André Michaux, when he viewed what he believed to be the largest collection of plants in the temperate world in August 1794. Park visitors can learn the amazing story of Elisha Mitchell, preacher, chemist, geologist, and acting president of the University at Chapel Hill. and see why measuring the highest mountain in eastern America in 1835 was good news for North Carolina. At a time when North Carolina was largely regarded as a backwater, Mitchell's discovery gave the people of this state a much-needed source of pride. In Tar Heel Parks, you can also follow the footsteps of American heroes and heroines. Peter Jefferson, father of Thomas Jefferson, surveyed the border between North Carolina and Virginia at today's New River State Park. You can celebrate Sally Salter, Revolutionary War heroine, at Salter Lake in Jones Lake State Park, and cheer Margaret Nygaard and her rowdy friends who stopped a lake and saved a river, making way for Eno River State Park. At Jockey's Ridge State Park, you can celebrate Carolista Baum, who lay in front of a bulldozer to stop the development of the largest sand dune in eastern America in 1973. There are modern heroes and heroines who have given their resources to make our park system possible. They include James Morrow, who gave us Morrow Mountain; A.B. Coleman from Moyock, who saved Merchant's Mill Pond for posterity; Dr. William Sharp, whose gift of beachfront property to the All-Black North Carolina Teachers Association led to the establishment of Hammocks Beach State Park; John Humphrey, whose work and contributions made Chimney Rock State Park a possibility; and Catherine Boyd, who donated her longleaf forest near Sanford, Weymouth Woods, as the first nature preserve in our park system to honor the memory of her son. Finally, in our state parks, you will see and feel the struggles for civil rights in places like Jones Lake, our first state park for African Americans. Throughout the Jim Crow era, African Americans had been systematically excluded from most beaches. Even with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it would be several years before North Carolina state parks would be truly integrated.
I started with state parks in 1964, and I retired in 1997. In 1964, we had no female rangers. The parks were not integrated, they were segregated. We had 3 parks that were predominant for African American. We had Jones Lake State Park over in Bladen County, one of the state lakes. We had the Reedy Creek section of Umstead State Park, which is in Wake County, and we had Hammocks Beach State Park in Onslow County. Well, at that time, you know, the blacks or the colors had no public access to the ocean. So Hammocks Beach was a very important part because it led us to the ocean. Jones Lake is a lake. You could go swimming there and fishing, and Umstead was more like a natural area. They had the picnic area. It was very important for us to have some place for recreation and outdoor recreation. It really doesn't make any difference whether you're black, white, Indian, or Asian, or Hispanic. We're all human. We belong to the human race. So that lets us all, we have one thing in common. Nature is in common with everybody. We all enjoy the outdoors. We all enjoy studying the animals, the insects, the trees, hiking, fishing. We all enjoyed it. So it has brought us all together.
As I grew up, I did not have a chance to go to state parks on a regular basis because there weren't that many available and open to people of color. So when the parks began to open and we had access to the great parks like the Umstead Park and others, certainly that was a place where there could be a level of interaction that could not occur otherwise.
Today, the grandeur of nature and activities that can be shared and enjoyed by all people have made North Carolina state parks truly common ground. If you're into superlatives, wanting to know the highest, the biggest, the oldest, or the most, you'll find them in North Carolina state parks. Here at Pettigrew State Park, you'll find some of the tallest and largest cypress trees in eastern America. At Chimney Rock State Park, you'll see one of the largest known fissure cave systems in America and one of the highest waterfalls in the East. At Gorges State Park, you'll find the highest average annual rainfall totals, 91 inches, in eastern America, and the most major waterfalls, 24 in a small area. In what state park can you find the Venus flytrap, which Charles Darwin called one of the most wonderful plants in the world? In a longleaf pine forest next to the tallest sand dune on North Carolina's southern coast, Carolina Beach State Park. What state park has one of the highest concentrations of bald eagles in North Carolina, with over 100 during the summer and 10 active nests? Jordan Lake State Park. Because of limestone bluffs on its north shore that reduce acidity, Lake Waccamaw has one of our largest collections of endemic species, living things found nowhere else. At Elk Knob State Park, you'll find some of the sweetest alkaline soils in the mountains, making it home to some of the rarest plants in the Appalachians, including Gray's lily. Two North Carolina state parks are built around mill ponds. At Merchant's Mill Pond and Carver's Creek, you will marvel at magnificent stands of cypress. And at Merchant's Mill Pond, you'll be at the northern habitat limit of the American alligator. Bears. Did someone say bears? At Pettigrew State Park in the counties of the Albemarle Peninsula, you will be in the midst of one of the largest concentrations of black bear in North America. At South Mountain State Park, you'll explore the most land in any of our land-based parks, over 18,000 acres, and because of its location between the high mountains and the Piedmont, it is home to extreme biodiversity, including the shy, endangered four-toed salamander. Finally, Weymouth Woods is the first North Carolina park to utilize prescribed fires, intentionally set fires to control weeds and undergrowth. Here you'll find the oldest living longleaf pine in the state at 470 years old. This is also one of the best places to see the tuxedoed, endangered, red-cockaded woodpecker. How many state parks do we really have? When you think of the state park system, please don't think of just parks, but also of state recreation areas, state natural areas, state lakes and rivers, and state trails. Some consider the Mountains to the Sea Trail our longest state park. The MST was made a unit of the state park system in the year 2000 and will eventually stretch more than 1,000 miles from Clingman's Dome in the west to Jockey's Ridge in the east. Together, these lands, our heritage, encompass more than 200,000 acres from the Outer Banks to the Georgia and Tennessee borders. Although you will frequently hear the number more than 40 state parks, even that number does not reflect the extraordinary nature of the land. Some parks have many faces in the same day, especially those in the mountains. Fog can turn to rain and snow and bright sun within a few hours. Instead of 40 state parks, it is safe to say that we have at least 160 when you factor in the 4 seasons that show the many moods of these lands. Only 4-season visitors are assured of seeing all of the faces and moods of these magnificent places.
In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Karen, she's a silver sun. You best walk her away and watch it shining. Watch her watch the morning come. A silver tear appearing now. I'm crying, ain't I? Gone to Carolina in my mind. There ain't no doubt in no one's mind that love's the finest thing around. Whisper something soft and kind. And hey, babe, the sky's on fire. I'm dying. In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind.
In the North Carolina State Park system, North meets South and diversity abounds. The logo says it well. North Carolina state parks are naturally wonderful. They are also wonderfully diverse. Many of the world's great botanists have long agreed that North Carolina is a contender as the location with the greatest biodiversity in the temperate world. If this is true, then our state park system and wild lands are America's greenhouse. Much of our biodiversity, however, begins with geological diversity. In our state parks, you can discover the geological history and age of North Carolina, beginning with some rock formations at Grandfather Mountain over 1 billion years old. At Mount Mitchell, you can stand on stone formed 700 million years ago. Visit a 550 million year old volcanic island arc in the Uwaris at Morrow Mountain State Park. On top of Hanging Rock and Pilot Mountain, both monadnocks, isolated mountains arising abruptly from the Piedmont below, you can travel back some 500 million years to a time when the quartz sands of an ancient ocean were transformed by heat and pressure into erosion-resistant quartzite. Swim in Jordan Lake, located over the 220 million year old Triassic Basin. In a Tar Heel State Park, paddle across one of the mysterious Carolina Bay lakes, Lake Phelps, Jones Lake, Singletary Lake, Baytree Lake, and Lake Walcamaw, which most scientists now believe were formed by the processes of wind and water in the last 100,000 years. Finally, you can stand on the shifting peak of Jockey's Ridge, which, like the Outer Banks, is only a few thousand years old. Within North Carolina state parks, the biological diversity is breathtaking. You can travel from the tropics to the boreal forest of Canada. You'll see alligators and palm trees on our south coast. And in our spruce fir forest above 5,000 feet, you'll see the plants and animals of subarctic Canada. In North Carolina parklands, you can find thousands of species of vascular plants, including approximately 75 species of orchid, almost 50 native lilies, and 36 types of oak. There are over 400 species of resident and migratory birds. Some 265 species of freshwater fish, 185 different butterflies, 120 species of mammals, and finally, in fields and forest, there are over 8,000 species of fungi. Few places hold the biological diversity of Chimney Rock State Park with its moist, north-facing slopes, or Gorges State Park with rainforest conditions and 21 natural communities, where the Blue Ridge Escarpment rises sharply from the lowlands of South Carolina below. Or at Grandfather Mountain State Park, where you can find 72 endangered species within 16 ecological communities. At Mount Jefferson State Park, enjoy over 800 plant species. And let us not forget the great diversity of plants and animals found in our unique parks with longleaf pine savanna, including Waccamaw, Lumber River, Carvers Creek, and Carolina Beach.
Well, wild places are the prime habitats for biodiversity, and North Carolina is one of the 3 most biodiverse states in the country. So we have a real opportunity to preserve biodiversity here in North Carolina, whether it's coastal biodiversity at Jockey's Ridge, or it's a mountain cove habitat at Grandfather Mountain. We have a real opportunity to honor and preserve this biodiversity that we have in North Carolina.
The great diversity of natural communities that we have in North Carolina state parks and throughout the state really give us a great diversity of birds and other wildlife. For example, with birds, there are about 470 species of birds that have been recorded in the state. More than 400 species have been recorded in state parks, and that's all because of the great diversity of habitats that are protected there.
Why does biodiversity matter? Why should we be concerned about discovering and maintaining the myriad life forms embraced within North Carolina and its parks? One thing that we know about biodiversity is that it does not do well when isolated. Just as our urban centers, Asheville, Charlotte, the Triad, Triangle, and Wilmington, grow and thrive because they are connected by major transportation infrastructure, our state parks, centers of biodiversity, must also be connected to preserve their vitality. We must make sure that our state parks and other wild lands do not become isolated plant zoos or disconnected greenhouses. To thrive, they too must be connected by greenways and by robust buffers along river corridors.
As one moves between parks, certainly I think it is important to have a safe and certainly an easy way to be able to move from one point to the other. And parks, I think, provide a destination but also the greenway provides the highway that allows us to make the trip.
In a world of dwindling resources, stewardship is an art and practice that we should all embrace. The best of our stewards work and often live in our state parks. They are the more than 400 women and men we know as park rangers, park educators, resource managers, office assistants, and maintenance specialists. As a group, they are paramedics, teachers, naturalists, ambassadors, scientists, law enforcement, engineers, and rescue teams. Park employees found across North Carolina are the consummate conservation professionals.
As a park ranger, I feel like an ambassador for North Carolina. I feel like we talk about the best that North Carolina has to offer in our state parks, from the mountains to the coast.
Nothing makes me happier than to see people enjoying the same things that I care about. It just makes me really happy.
I got my love of the outdoors from my grandmother, who was an avid gardener and bird watcher, and also from my father, who loved to fish, and park ranger just seemed to fit the bill.
My favorite thing about being a park ranger is what you see behind you. This is my office.
My favorite part about being a park ranger is getting to work outside and the beautiful scenery we have here in the western North Carolina.
I love working at the state park because every park employee has many jobs, everything from search and rescue to helping visitors to mowing the grass, plowing snow. We do it all.
I love being outdoors and I love to deal with people. I love to teach people about the resources within the great state of North Carolina, and I love to serve my state.
Well, my inspiration in becoming a park ranger is because I love the outdoors and I love learning about plants and animals.
I just love teaching children and working with children, and to be able to instill my love of nature into the little ones especially just makes my day.
I can spend hours just talking to visitors. It's the highlight of my day.
Since I was 9 years old, I knew that I wanted to work outside. I've been lucky to have the opportunity to work for North Carolina State Parks as a state park ranger and a state park superintendent, and it's been an adventure of a lifetime.
What is the value of these extraordinary lands to the people of North Carolina now and in the future? Is it being able to see the roots of native trees that are the muscle and sinew of the earth holding our soil together, or to observe the varied rocks that form the earth's skeleton protruding from below? Is it several $100 million tourism dollars generated by state parks for motels, meals, gear, and travel? Is it their value in tens of millions of dollars of sequestered carbon, CO2, a greenhouse gas, in almost 200,000 acres of vegetated parks, trails, and natural areas? Is it their value to education as natural classrooms for thousands of students annually? Previous generations grew up on farms and in small towns, next to fields and forest. State parks will serve the same purpose for the present and future generations.
Our state parks and natural areas, our greenways, are amazing resources for this and future generations because we live and learn in a three-dimensional world. I like to say you don't learn to ride a bike by reading about it. You've got to get on the bike in order to learn it. And you've got to get out in the woods in order to understand our environment and our ecosystem. And our students today learn so much online, but that's a very unidimensional way of learning. When you're out in the woods, it's multi-sensory, it's multicultural, it's multidisciplinary, and you can link so many things together and have a much more successful educational opportunity when you take advantage of our parks.
We know that our state parks attract tourism dollars, but aren't our parks also major incentives for new talent and new industry to locate in North Carolina?
Well, you know, there's a Greek word called topophilia, which is love of place. And it's not just love of physical place, it's love of place as it relates to culture. It's a personal place, it's an experience. Parks are really about an experience, and I think our North Carolina parks, in particular, they connect with people. They provide a level of experience that whether you live here, whether you're looking to live here, when you want to recruit here, particularly in the Research Triangle Park, which has park in its name, the concept of creating a special experience, a place where people can find themselves, find conversation, relax, engage with others. It's a very meaningful thing for us to have the quality of parks that we have here in North Carolina. When we work to recruit RTP, what folks are still looking for is what are those great amenities that are going to enrich their lives? What are the experiences they're going to be able to provide to themselves and their families that are going to make a difference? Look, everything today that people look for are greater and richer experiences. And that natural connection is a very important part of that. So having the Umstead, the Eno, the Topeka Trail, having the 18 miles worth of trails that we have here in the park allows us to talk to people about their ability to share with their families, to share with themselves, to share with their friends, a greater opportunity of spiritual amenity that comes with the natural spaces that the parks allow.
In value in our parks, shouldn't we include healthy exercise and fresh air for over 15 million visitors annually? What dollar figure should we place on quiet and stress reduction? What is the significance and value of the extreme biodiversity, both known and undiscovered, found in over 100 natural communities containing thousands of species of plants, animals, and other living things within North Carolina state parks? When you look at all the value factors associated with our state parks, we think you must conclude that their value to North Carolina is incalculable.
It's really wonderful to be in a place like Carolina Beach State Park, where you can stand in one spot and be looking at a painted bunting singing in a tree, and then turn in the other direction and see brown pelicans or royal terns flying down the Cape Fear River.
So it's almost impossible to attach a dollar value. They bring pleasure, they educate, they produce wonder. That's an imponderable value. You can't weigh it, you can't measure it. But if we didn't have them, we'd be a poorer place.
So a scientist that I greatly admire, E.O. Wilson, said it best. One thing that the next generation won't forgive is the loss of biodiversity.
For a writer, for a teacher who can say to a student, you're interested in this sort of thing? Here's your best shot at getting to it. Easiest shot, it won't cost you a thing.
I certainly think at my age now, I'm starting to look at people who are matured, who are retired, and certainly we know that one of the values is to be able to get out and to walk and to engage in continued learning. I think that is extremely important in helping them make the decision on where they'd like to be as well.
We often talk first and foremost about our natural beauty in North Carolina before we ever talk about tax incentives or infrastructure. It is that quality of life, that experience, that connection with nature, that personal ability for an individual to find themselves beyond just their work environment that is becoming more and more powerful and gives North Carolina a great edge.
Having begun this program on the highest peak east of the Dakotas, it's appropriate that we conclude on the tallest living sand dune system in Eastern America. We hope you've enjoyed this centennial visit to some of North Carolina's most iconic places. In another 100 years, we hope that every North Carolinian will hear these words. Welcome.
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 Welcome to North Carolina State Parks.
This program is made possible by funding from the members of State Employees Credit Union as a tribute to the men and women in our North Carolina State Park system and to the countless North Carolinians whose courage, time, and generosity have helped build our parks. Thanks also to Fred and Alice Standback for their support of North Carolina's natural treasures, to the Southern String Band, whose music celebrates our parks, and to UNC TV viewers like you.